me just make sure this works. Okay, perfect. I just want to answer it the wrong way, so you can ask that question when they come here. They'll be here. Does that make sense? And then if you want to talk afterwards, one-on-one, that's fine too. That's no problem.
Yeah, I wasn't sure initially. I guess again, I didn't realize that this was from quite a while ago, and I was like, is she okay being identified and showing her face? But I guess it's so many years have gone by and she's come to.
She's still, I mean, she's not perfect with everything.
Well,
you know, I mean, obviously, it was a big trauma. So,
is there a statute of limitations in Illinois?
That's a question that Bob will answer. I don't like answering legal questions.
No. I mean, and I'm not going to hold you to it.
There are statute of limitations depending on a bunch of different circumstances. So it's a much more complicated question.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
Because you know it's every time.
Every time she has to take pictures with microphones. All right, I'm gonna go turn off.
One last question, has this been sent out digitally already?
Has it been sent to?
Has it been sent out digitally?
It has not. I can send it to you, of course.
Yeah, I always like capture when anytime we do press releases, my own personal stuff.
Oh, I think I'm good, thank you.
Then I'll be videotaping you guys next.
I did it.
Oh, you did?
I had closed those things. You want to rebalance? Sure.
That's perfect, thank you.
You good?
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. Okay.
Yes.
Wow.
We all good? Hit the record button real quick. All right. Good morning. My name is Jason Baum. I'm Director of Communications here at Disparti Law Group. Today I want to introduce some people who are going to be talking about the case versus the Oswego School District. We have with us today Patricia Karlin of the Karlin Law Firm, Bob Fioretti, attorney, and Casper attorneys here, as well as Diana Mondragon, who is the victim in the lawsuit. We've got the original Iowa victim of Mr. Query, Sarah Hedlund, and Raquel Roca. We're both here as victims as well too. So at this time, I'm going to introduce the team from Disparti Law.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Patricia Karlin of the Karlin Law Firm, LLC. And it seems like only yesterday we gathered here. I did not expect we'll be reconvening so quickly. So your presence today is greatly appreciated. Thank you for being here. Following our recent press conference addressing the Doe plaintiff's case, we received a significant communication the very next day. The email sent by Diana Mondragon, who joins us today, greatly detailed her experiences of sexual abuse during her high school years at Oswego East High School, School District 308. Sexual abuse suffered at the hands of her teacher, Justin Query. Diana's email was supported by a range of corroborating documents. Now I would like to express my deepest gratitude to Diana, Raquel, and Sarah, who are present here today, for their incredible bravery in coming forward and sharing their traumatic stories. Breaking the silence around sexual abuse, especially in school settings, is an extraordinarily challenging task. Victims often remain silent due to stigma, shame, fear of being targeted or ridiculed, and other daunting reasons. The issue is particularly apparent in small, tight-knit suburban communities and districts where everyone is familiar with one another, making it even harder for victims to speak out. I am encouraged to see that our last press conference resonated and had a meaningful impact. Together with the Disparti Law Group, we're optimistic that this will help more victims to step forward. We urge them to either reach out to my office directly or to contact the Disparti Law Group's dedicated hotline. And now to all the victims out there, their parents and guardians, you are not alone. Do not be afraid. We are here on your side. Please keep that in mind. Thank you once again for being here and for your support in bringing these critical issues to light. And now I'm going to turn it over to Bob Fioretti.
Thank you, Patricia. You know, it was a short time ago, it was 52 days ago that we were here. We filed a lawsuit then against the Chicago Public Schools. And that lawsuit was again about alleging that our school system does not protect our children. Our schools are meant to be sanctuaries of learning, of growth, of giving people an opportunity for a better life. And this time, again, as CPS failed, so has this school district, the Oswego School District. In a few moments, you're going to hear from Cass Casper from our legal team, who will take you through the details of this. But above all, here we have, in this case, a teacher who was suspended in Iowa for a period of 12 years after being found guilty of 6 counts of misconduct, who was able to obtain a teaching position at Oswego High School and victimize more students. Enough is enough. We really do recommend reforms through these lawsuits that we are filing. First and foremost, we believe in zero tolerance policy for sexual abuse in our schools. Once again, here's a teacher accused, or a staff member is accused. They need to be removed from that position until the investigation is completed. I say, and it's been proven that about 1 out of every 10 students from K through graduation in high school is subject to some sort of sexual abuse in this country. 1 out of 10. Secondly, our state should list on our website those that are sexual predators. Our school systems should do the same, not only here in this state, but across this country. When someone is found guilty of abuse, their name needs to go into a database so that they are never hired again in any of our schools. Third, we should make sure that anyone who comes into contact with our students, employees and vendors, as has been shown with CPS, that 52 of those were vendors, need to have, all of them need to have a complete mandatory safe environment training program. A safe environment training program on a yearly basis. And at this time, I'd like to introduce Cass Casper, who out of our legal team, who will bring you through the allegations in the complaint that we will file today on behalf of Daniel.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Patricia. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here today. My name is Cass Casper, C-A-S-S, last name C-A-S-P-E-R. With me today is the plaintiff in this lawsuit, Diana Mondragon, M-O-N-D-R-A-G-O-N. The defendant queries victim in Iowa, Sarah Hedlund, H-E-D-L-U-N-D, is also with us today. And another one of queries victims at Oswego, Raquel Rocha, is also with us here today. These women have come forward together as part of a day of reckoning in this school district, and we hope throughout the state and throughout the country to start and reinvigorate a dialogue about teacher-on-student grooming and sexual abuse. These three women have bravely stepped forward and are coming forward without anonymity in this suit. They are putting their faces to their names to say, this is wrong. Teacher-on-student grooming, teacher-on-student sexual abuse must be reckoned with, and it must end. Mr. Fioretti has already outlined several concrete reforms that we are hoping to spur a dialogue on through this litigation to exact in our state and possibly federally as this case proceeds. Let me get to the factual allegations in this lawsuit. Diana was a young student at Oswego East High School. She met Justin Query, who's the defendant in this lawsuit and the abuser, in 2006, 2007, 2008. He was her teacher in multiple courses during that time. He targeted her because he realized that Diana at the time was a vulnerable young woman, just like so many of our students are. He gave her gifts, he took her places, he gave her his number, she learned where his home was, he developed a close personal relationship, Diana, he fixated on her, and as a young person in Diana's mind, this made her feel okay. It made her feel important. It made her feel like there was someone out there who thought she was special. That was Query, her teacher, someone in a position of trust, authority, and abuse. And ultimately, as we've learned and as we saw, Query's goal was not to help her develop. It was not to help her grow. It was not to help her through a difficult time in her life. It was to sexually abuse her. In Diana's case, sadly, horrifyingly, Justin was successful multiple times when she was a minor. These details are outlined extensively in our complaint, which we brought copies of here today. This complaint was filed this morning in the Northern District of Illinois. It outlines that when Diana was in her senior year in high school, following a 2-year campaign of grooming and developing a personal relationship by Query on Diana, that he engaged her in sexual intercourse as a minor in her car in front of his apartment multiple times. Diana, like so many of our young students at the time, did not have the mental capacity to know this was wrong, did not have the ability to recognize that this trusted figure, this authority figure, this teacher, was doing something that was criminal, that was wrong, that was abusive to her. It has only been years later that as Diana has grown into womanhood, she has finally realized the massive extent of the abuse that Query exacted on her when she was a student in 2006, 7, and 8 at Oswego. Diana, forming this realization in her early 30s, in 2021, 2022, started to think about her options. She started to go into therapy. She started to get treatment. In April 2022, a magical event happened to Diana, and that was Sarah, who Query had abused in Iowa, reached out to Diana for support. Sarah and Diana discussed what they should do to rectify these awful wrongs by Query and the district in the past. They thereafter filed complaints in August 2022 with the school district, both in Iowa, where he abused Sarah, and in Oswego, where he abused Diana. They filed police reports. They filed complaints with the state boards of education, both in Iowa and in Illinois. And that was in 2022, folks, when Diana and Sarah finally realized the extent of the abuse and decided to take action to prevent this from happening to any other students ever again. What followed 2022 to 2023 in Oswego was an investigation by the Oswego district into Query's abuse. That final report summarizing the abuse that investigation uncovered was finally delivered to Diana in 2023, just this past year. Folks, it was a shock. That report revealed all kinds of bases where the district officials at Oswego were aware. They were aware of what Query was doing back in 2006, 2007, 2008. There's numerous instances outlined in the complaint where district officials and staff were made aware that he had an improper relationship with students, saw red flags, saw alarm signs that Query was abusing students, and they did nothing. These district officials with knowledge of the abuse did nothing. Query continued to work at Oswego East. After this abuse happened in 2006, 7, and 8, he worked there in 2009, 2010, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22 is when he's finally suspended. All those years, folks, this serial sexual abuser was working at Oswego East High School. In that time, Diana, being a young person and continuing a relationship with her abuser after high school, had made social media posts with him, which are in the complaint, that were further notice to the district that here's a teacher working here who's having a relationship with a former student, and yet they still did nothing. Folks, this is a day of reckoning. This is a day, along with 52 days ago on our last press conference, where this issue must be addressed in this community, in this state. We need reforms to prevent this kind of abuse from ever happening again on our children in these school districts, which are supposed to be the protectors, the stewards of our children's health, a place to foster the growth and development of young men and women, not places where serial abusers such as Justin Query are able to go and find victims to abuse again and again and again. This is wrong. We're here to get justice. We filed this complaint this morning in the Northern District of Illinois. It's pending a judge assignment. We've outlined 9 counts against Query, district officials who failed to intervene, and against the school board and the district down in Oswego. We intend to investigate this to the absolute bottom and to find out who else knew. Are there other victims? And by the way, there may be. We want to hear from you. If you've been a victim of Justin Query's abuse or grooming when you were a student at Oswego or in Iowa, we want to hear from you. It is important that we all come together and stand with Diana, with Sarah, and Raquel, and stand together and hold these people to account for their failure to intervene, and Justin for his abuse. The case has not been set for a date yet in court. I expect to have the first court date in the next day or two, generally about 48 hours. I expect to have our judge assignment in the next 48 hours. I expect to begin the discovery process as soon as we can. We've initiated communication with the Oswego School District, and I invite them to the table to talk about not just how to fix this for Diana, Sarah, and Raquel, but how to adopt policies to make sure this never happens again. I want to end with this. Diana, what is it that you hope to achieve from courageously stepping forward to bring this suit?
I don't want what happened to me and Sarah and Raquel to keep happening to students in places where they should be safe.
Thank you very much. We'll now open the floor to questions if there are any.
Yes, Michelle Gallardo, ABC7, good morning.
Good morning.
You mentioned that there were police reports filed, but there are no charges that have ever come of them. Has the statute of limitations expired, or what's the situation with that?
We don't believe the statute of limitations has expired. I cannot speak for the DuPage County State's Attorney's Office. Diana did file a police report in Aurora. Sarah did file a police report in Iowa. To date, criminal charges have not been filed against Query, and I cannot speak for why DuPage has not done that to date yet.
Now, you spoke about this report that came out that shows that the staff knew what was going on. I'm sorry if I missed this. When did the report come out?
The report came out in 2023.
And is that public?
It's not public at this time. We do have it. It's a 34-page report. I have it in my file. We used it in crafting the lawsuit, among other sources of information. Releasing that report may be something that we're going to talk about. We're not prepared to do it today. But our complaint outlines in details factual allegations here.
Okay. Deanna, are you willing to answer some questions?
Diana is very nervous, and we're going to do this
Okay.
gently, and I may intervene. But Diana, if you're comfortable and you want to give it a shot, let's do it.
Just share with us what you're comfortable with about how this started and, what happened.
Mr. Query was my English teacher my junior year. And that summer before junior year, I had just gotten out of my first real relationship. I was very vulnerable. I was very depressed. I was an easy target for him. And he started gifting me with things. He started making me CDs. He started just getting closer to me. And by my senior year, I was going to his apartment a couple of nights a week, and he would sexually assault me in my car. And it took a long time for me to kind of put the pieces together of what happened to me. And thankfully, I always knew that there was someone else out there, because he would be pretty open about the fact that he hung out with former students in Iowa. To me, he said they were former students. And thankfully, Sarah reached out, and we've been able to seek justice and accountability for the things that he did and the failures of the adults in the school systems to protect us.
How old are you now?
I'm 33 now.
What made you come to this, I guess, reckoning that you felt that you needed to,
That could be an entire 2-hour interview. But I think what really helped was growing up, going to college, getting an education, seeing different worldviews. I also became a school counselor. I went to school for school counseling, and I remember sharing with some colleagues about what I thought was a normal relationship, and when they learned the context of it, it was the first time that adults reacted in that way of, I don't know if this was right. And I was like 29 at that point, and that was one of the things that I remember feeling like, this is more complicated. This is deeper than me just being involved with an older man who was my teacher. I was groomed, I was targeted, I was sexually abused, I was robbed of a normal high school experience and the ages and normal development of 16 through 25.
And if I may ask, you said that Sarah contacted you, but how did you become aware of each other, that there was this, I guess that's where I'm confused, is how did you know that
That's a
this
very
was
common
thing?
question.
Sure.
Maybe.
Sure.
I didn't actually know if there was another victim, but I always assumed that there was. And I just kind of had a moment where everything clicked, and I realized that I had been groomed and sexually assaulted for myself for years. I think I had built some defensive mechanisms in my mind to justify what happened to me, so I didn't have to face what actually happened to me. And when those fell away, I decided that it was time to see if I could find somebody else. And a quick Google search showed Diana's name listed as his long-term girlfriend in his father's obituary. I looked her up and found that she had been a former student at Oswego, and I knew immediately what had happened to her, and that's how we met each other.
And Sarah, I'm sorry, before you go away, in Iowa, there is a statute of limitations, right? You're not able to pursue criminal charges.
So Iowa has now made it that there is no longer a statute of limitation for criminal sexual assault, which is great, but it's not retroactive, and I aged out by 3 years. And then there's civil is 1 year. So I was still being abused by Mr. Query when I lost the legal right to press civil charges against him.
A lot of the problem you addressed, though, is it's documented fairly well that most victims of this type of grooming and then sexual assault, either before graduation or after, don't realize what happened to them until they're in their late 40s and sometimes in their 50s. Statute of limitations should never be controlled anymore across this country because people don't realize until 30 or 40 years later what happened to them. And it's and I think Cass hit it right on the head. It affects their ability to trust in the institutions, how they approach life, how they approach relationships. All of that's fatal because what happens to them and to a victim in the schools.
Yeah, and how long were you involved with Query then?
He started grooming me when I was 16 and I left him when I was 25.
So that's how that would sound.
All right, if there's no further questions right now, thank you all for appearing today, and we will certainly keep you updated as the lawsuit proceeds. Thank you very much.
Let me have him take a look. I'll have him take a look. Wait, it's-
Let me tell you a quick story. I had a guy come into my office, early 90s construction. I mean, this guy, he would have been nobody ever seen. I researched found some places I know that.
That's all right, no